can meet lots of people from different backgrounds, learn about their experience, and basically network with them and work alongside them to make yourself and like more knowledgeable and as well as others around.
Can you give an example of topics we covered?
Last session, like VS Code with GitHub and as well as what was it? The Copilot. So they were here. Fahid was teaching us about how you can use Copilot and GitHub in VS Code to help with coding and stuff.
Yeah. So we cover everything related to like development, security, data. We had a whole like intensive Power BI session because we were celebrating our 10 years of Power BI. We stream all of our talks on YouTube. So if you don't know, just look up azureqatar.org. You find all of our links over there. And also, if you are not already on our LinkedIn or WhatsApp group, you can scan this QR code to take you over there. We also, one thing we like to do during these sessions is to shout out places that are hiring and people that are also looking. And it's really great to see like some people that landed on opportunities or people that found talent through this community. Actually, fun fact, some of you might know, actually, I got hired at Microsoft through the community in a way. So we are actually, on that note, we are actually hiring at the moment for a solution engineer focused on data specifically. So if you're someone with a really strong data platform background, we're looking for someone with a bit more on the intermediate experience level side. Do reach out so that you can apply. And if there's anyone that wants to, like anyone that's hiring or anyone that wants to promote themselves, you can use this platform or you can DM me and we can feature you in the next session. Okay, without further ado, I want to introduce our speaker for today. We have Sarmad. He's a colleague and he's also a solution architect covering AI and apps here at Microsoft. He has nearly a decade worth of experience. And in the field, he worked in domains related to education, tourism, and more. And he's going to talk about Azure Functions. Raise your hand if you know what Azure Functions are. You're probably going to ask that. I stole that question from you. All right. So we have some people who know it, some people who probably never heard of it, some people who maybe just dabbled a little bit into it but doesn't know a lot about it. So I'll let Sarmad explain more about what are Azure Functions, how can you use them to build event-driven apps, how it's actually a very important component in building agentic applications as well. And he's going to demonstrate them. And we love to keep our sessions interactive. Please ask questions. And we're going to ask you questions at the end as well. For those of you who know, like just pay attention at the end. Sarmad is going to ask you some questions. And if you get it right, you walk away with a cool Microsoft merch. What do we have this time? Do we have like those mugs? Oh, we have the chargers. Yeah. So we have like some portable chargers. Actually, it actually came really handy when I was like in Vienna. I had to like change my thing and I used it. I was like, thank you, Microsoft. Yeah, so I will Sarmad onto you right now. So we'll take it over. It's going to introduce the topic, show us some demos, and please ask us questions throughout.
So hi everyone. Padma already introduced me. So I specialize in AI and apps domain. And today the topic is going to be Azure Functions. I'm not going to dive very deep into it. So I will keep it like high level. Level 200 can, have the basic understanding. And the aim is that after today's session, I want you guys to be able to, start working with Azure Functions quickly. So I will keep things easy for everyone. I'm not going to discuss any advanced concepts in Azure Functions. We're going to look at a few slides. What are functions? How do we use them? And what are the different use cases in which you can utilize functions? And then I'm going to dive into a practical session, which can mainly help developers.
Shared desktop.
Yeah. So which will mainly help developers to understand and get started with functions.
You can see it in the live stream? Okay. But presenting in Teams, we need to share the screen.
Full screen.
Yeah. Okay. See premiere settings. And then we can.
Okay, so serverless in Azure, basically serverless computing is a model in Azure, which lets you work with your applications and deploy them without managing the infrastructure. As the name suggests, you don't have to worry about how the infrastructure and is going to be managed, how it is going to be scaled, how you are supposed to take care of things like high availability, these kind of things. So you only focus on your code, your application code data, and this is how you can have more productivity in development, because you're not taking care of these extra things which you have to look after in traditional application life cycle. So in Azure, there are mainly two types of serverless services. Okay, so one is Azure Container Apps, and then the other is Azure Functions. So today we'll be looking at Azure Functions, but let me just give you a brief overview of all the different kind of services, the services portfolio we have in Azure. There are more types as well, but in Azure you have AI and IoT related services. You have integration services. You have database services, application services, and analytics services. So you have a range of services in Azure that you can use to build your solutions, your cloud native solutions, born in cloud applications. With a mixture of these applications, you can have end-to-end implementation of your applications. So now the serverless services, Azure Container Apps and Azure Functions, it's not like when I say they are not running on a server. In actual, they are running on a physical hardware, but that layer is abstracted.
Oh my God, how are you?
That's not much. So it's basically abstracted from you, and Azure takes care of managing that. So in this, for example, Azure Container Apps, this is a service for container orchestration. If you work with microservices, okay, you have a number of containers, so you can use this service to manage your multi-container applications. Now, Azure Container Apps is built on top of AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service. So the underlying management layer, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of Kubernetes Service, but I'm sure you guys must have heard about Kubernetes Service. So in Kubernetes Service, there is a lot of management headache. There is a huge learning curve if you haven't worked with Kubernetes Service before. So now Azure Container Apps is built on top of it, and Azure basically gives you a seamless experience where you can just simply work with your container and your code and your application. You don't need to worry about scaling it, managing, updating the cluster, all of these things. So similar like this, Azure Functions are built on top of App Service runtime. So I'm sure most of you have heard about App Service as well. It's one of the most common service used to deploy applications in Azure. So Azure Functions basically are built on top of App Service, and they have all the benefits of App Service. And on top of it, the underlying layer of management is again hidden from you, which provides you the benefits of focusing on your development rather than focusing on how you're going to manage the server infrastructure, scaling, etc. So these serverless services have a lot of features which you can use to kind of integrate, these your applications, your data with your other existing systems within Azure or any other cloud. So we'll talk about the different integrations and built-in capabilities that the service have. So there are like few concepts that I want to like share before I start on these slides. So Azure Functions, mainly there are like few steps in order to work with functions. In traditional, application development, any language, any framework, what you guys do is that, you choose a framework, a language, and then, you write starting your functions. Okay, so the main things in an app are like your calling functions. They are doing some kind of, processing for you, and this is how like the whole overall your application is. So the same concept is here. In Azure Functions, basically the service allows you to run a piece of code which can do a specific task for you. Okay, for example, you can build a lightweight API. Okay, that can retrieve data from a database. You don't need to like develop a full end-to-end application based on a particular framework. These kind of things. So you can just write your code and deploy the code on Azure Function, and this function will do that job. So think of it like as microservices. These are small microservices which can do a particular task, and in a bigger picture, it fits in a cloud native solution where you have multiple services that are being used to build an overall solution. It can be a web app, it can be AI solution, but anything like that. So yes, you write code, you deploy it on the service, and then that code gets executed. It cannot be a heavy code, a very heavy uh, full-fledged web application. It has to be a lightweight, task-specific function that you can do. So these functions, the difference between like other services and functions is that functions are event-based. They trigger or they execute the code that you deploy based on a certain event. Now this event can be anything. The main events that I can talk about, for example, you can send an HTTP request from another service to the function app. And based on getting that request, the function is going to get executed. Whatever is in that report, that will get executed. Uh, so it's event driven. So this is like one of the main things in functions. So as I said, like you don't need to worry about scaling. Azure Function Service, it has built-in scaling. It's highly available. It has full integration with DevOps. For example, if you want to deploy it, you have built-in functionality to set up CI/CD pipelines, either using GitHub, Azure DevOps. These kind of integrations are already there, and then you have flexible hosting options. So typically, these are Azure Functions. They have two type of hosting model. Okay. So one is that you go for the consumption. Now the consumption option, you get only charged when your function gets executed. Okay. So there is no like per month price that you're paying for in this hosting model. The other one is the dedicated compute, I would call it. It's like your function service, it runs on app service plan. So if you guys are not familiar with App Service Plan is the dedicated compute that you allocate to your web apps in Azure. Okay, so you will define like 4 vCPUs, this much RAM I need to run this function app. So the same thing, an app service. So the same thing here. It's Azure Function because it is built on top of the Azure App Service runtime, so it can be deployed on App Service Plan. So it works in similar way. Now there is a wide range of use cases where functions can be used. These days we have like a huge, the huge topic is AI, obviously. So in AI, functions are playing a very a critical role. So it is allowing organizations to you know build AI solutions which are born in cloud. They're cloud native, and they, for example, if they want to implement an MCP server, okay, or a function, or expose a function for your large language model, these kind of things are being deployed in functions. Okay, and based on that, the overall charge and the cost, it is optimized because the consumption model helps you achieve that. So there are like wide range of AI use cases. For example, if you have a lot of data sources and you want to integrate those data sources into your knowledge base. So your knowledge base can be in Cosmos DB, or it can be like AI search. So you can have this as a middleware layer in between to like kind of ingest the data and get it into your uh, um, knowledge base. So other than that, it has native support for AI agents, which are like a part of AI Foundry now. So it has like seamless integration with AI agent workflows. If you have like uh, RAG operations, you can deploy the logic of your RAG operations on functions, and they will do that for you. So like this, there are a range of AI scenarios. For example, recently I was working with one of the customer, and they had this use case related to document intelligence, where they wanted to kind of extract data from handwritten documents. So instead of like, and this solution, a part of it was already developed. So instead of, building the application core, what we went for was to develop a small solution on Azure Functions and integrate it with their existing database and storage accounts where these documents are being stored. And from there, they started utilizing document intelligence service, performed OCR, extracted data, and then for this, so all of this orchestration was being done by the Azure function. Similar, like there are a number of use cases where Azure functions fit in, and they can perform, they can act as the orchestration layer. So, till now, do you guys have any question?
So you're talking about the Azure AI functions. So with that, what I understand is that if I want to utilize the AI functions, so all the AI capabilities can be handled through Azure portal. I don't need to program anything into the C#, right?
So what functionalities are you?
You just mentioned about explained about the Azure AI functions, right?
Yeah.
So if I want to, let's say, do the risk analysis or fraud detection, so do I need to write a C# code for that, or it can be done through the Azure?
No. So regarding that, I mean, these are features built in Azure AI Foundry. Okay. So when you call the LLM, okay, so this call and this interaction happens on AI Foundry. So all of these security and compliance related aspects are built in as a feature of Azure AI Foundry. But the orchestration, let's say the RAG operation, okay, or the call to LLM, or the prompt, and like all of this data that you need to send to the LLM, your query, your questions, that can be done through your Azure function. And this is not AI function, this is Azure functions. But they have now built-in support for the services related to AI. For example, it has bindings that can help you connect to Azure AI Foundry and utilize LLMs and other features seamlessly. You don't have to write code for the integration between the services. So that is there for you. But obviously the logic, if you are maybe implementing an MCP tool or something, you have to deploy it there somewhere, right? So that is where the functions come in. They provide you like a lot of flexibility to in your overall solution. So does that answer your question?
Some more questions.
Yeah.
Just a question to follow this use cases. So this gentleman mentioned the fact that we are going to rewrite our functions in any situation. Function with Azure function or AI function. So are we going to rewrite it?
So there is a pattern, you can say, an approach that you have to use in order to write Azure functions.
Yes.
I'm not talking about your your application related functions, but the logic would be same. By just you will like wrap that logic into a Azure function, format. Okay. Yeah.
And it's come with a cost.
No, so from development perspective, there is no cost, but obviously service has a cost. As I said, like there are two models: consumption. So in consumption model, when you create Azure function based on that, so you will be charged based on the times of the time your function get executed.
Yes.
Right. So that, and the other is the dedicated compute. If you have heavy, processing, your function is not lightweight. I would say it needs like a certain number of cores and RAM. Then you can go for the dedicated compute option, which is app service plan. So it can give you the compute that you need. Yeah,
So can you expand a little bit on workflow orchestration part of
So like
because
yeah.
sorry, just to complete, so because from our use cases implementation, we have considered function app as basically to carry out a certain part of the overall flow. So from the workflow orchestration, and we plug it into either an agent or to a logic app flow or to a semantic kernel. So from the workflow orchestration perspective, can you expand a little bit more?
So, like from a workflow orchestration perspective, let's say like you have part of your workflow is that you need to index the documents, okay, chunk the documents, okay, ingest the documents, right? So all of this can be handled by your AI, your function app. This is just one example. For example, it can pull the data from the data sources. Okay, based on that, it can then maybe store it in a storage account or any other storage. Okay, then from there another function. Now I'm not talking about this one function. You can have a chain of functions, right? So another function can get that data, okay, then chunk it, okay, and then store it in AI search or Cosmos DB, index it. So all of this process, this orchestration between like all of these processes and make it available for your RAG operation, let's say, this can be done through. So as I said, like it acts as a middleware layer which helps you, orchestrate your overall workflow of your use case. And this is not only for AI use cases. Functions are there from more than like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So we are talking about, the similar approach because what we are doing, we are writing code and the service gives you all the integrations with your on-prem systems, your cloud-based systems, so you can like do this kind of. So I mean like this is like one example of it. Now another thing would be like, for example, you have some functions that you have exposed to your agent, right? Agent use those functions to do something. So those functions can also be, now you write those functions. You tell the agent what needs to be done. Maybe these are your own internal data sources or something. So that function can be deployed on Azure Functions app and then exposed to the agent service. Now this integration is very seamless, okay, between Azure Functions and your AI Foundry, through which agents can consume these services hosted there. Does that make give you some clarity?
It does to an extent, but I just wanted clarification from the perspective of, so can we consider it as a main orchestrator or a support to an orchestration?
It can be both. So it can be a main orchestrator as well. And also it can serve as a microservice within your workflow or within your overall solution, which can maybe you can expose it through a function as a function tool to your agent, and it can pull in some data that you need or something, or do these kind of activities. So I mean, like in cloud native development, we normally do not go for a single function. Okay, you can have like multiple functions. These are like some advanced concept which I haven't kept in today's topic. But I can, once we go on over the basic one, we can have an advanced topic as well. There are a lot of things that you can do in order to, like build these end-to-end cloud native solutions for you. So I think, so I've already talked about Azure Functions. They are serverless. They are event-driven. Okay, they exist. The existing app service. These are nano services, microservices, and in functions, you focus on your code and your events and data, and you don't need to worry about anything else. So, like from the development perspective, you can go ahead and write your code directly in Azure portal, okay? Or you can use any IDE that you prefer and use the extensions for Azure Functions in it, and then start the local development. That is a better way because it offers you more functionality. So we look into that as well. And then Azure Functions, they have they offer you bindings as well that you can create to integrate with the other external systems, to create your custom integrations for your own systems that you have in your environment. For example, here Dropbox, OneDrive, SendGrid. I mean, like you can create these kind of bindings for them, and then pull in data or use it as output data. So.
What's the binding service and how to use it for OneDrive, for example?
So for example, the binding is going to be, you have to write specific code to bind the service, right? So you will have the authentication as part of it from your service. So it's like a piece of code that you add as part of your function, and using that, basically you can either input data from that service or output data from that service. So this is like custom bindings. You have to write code for it in order to make that connection, to integrate your function with that solution. Yeah.
The binding is just between Azure Functions and resources from Azure.
So when it comes to Azure related resources, you have built-in bindings, which we have talked about, which are your event-based triggers. Okay, so you can utilize those for Azure, but there are some services where you won't find the built-in bindings. So for that, you have the option to write custom bindings and do this integration, achieve this integration with external services. For example, let's say for Dropbox, as of now, I'm not sure if there exists out-of-box binding or not. But if it doesn't, then you will go and you can write it. So there are documentations for such services that you can go through. They will guide you like how you can write your binding and then connect your function app code with this external service. So this is the functions architecture. So it is built on top of app service runtime, okay, and it uses the web job runtime further for the event-based triggers, and then on top of it you have your language runtime. When you create a function app, we look into that. You have to define like what would be the runtime of this function. It can be any language in which you are going to be deploying your code. Not all of them are supported, but the major languages are supported. And then on top of it, your code and the configurations are setting. So these are some of the some use cases and also like the triggers that are built in and are widely used. Okay, so you have timer-based trigger. Okay? Which what this allows you to run your function based on a certain time which you are going to define. This can be utilized for many purposes. For example, clean up jobs. Okay, run some scheduled jobs. Like in Linux, when you run a cron job, so it runs like on that certain time. So this is the similar approach here. So as you can see, like it can, like every 15 minutes, it can, pull data from some place, then clean it, validate it, and then maybe store it in a clean table. So you can achieve these kind of things. So this is basically a time-based trigger in a function that you can use for your use case. And this is event-based trigger. For example, in this case, this is an Azure service, which is Azure Storage Service. This is a blob trigger. So anything, if you upload a file or anything in that blob storage, it will just trigger the function and the function execution will start. Okay. And you can then see like, once the execution starts, you can maybe, if it's a CSV or any data, you can transform it into another data type and then, use that data and save it somewhere else and then maybe create Power BI reports or something. So all of this like automation and orchestration can be done. Similarly, you have like, a support for triggers for SaaS services as well, built in. That you can use. So I will show you the triggers that are as of now supported. There are more than like 22 triggers supported, but they can be increased as well using event grid in between. I'll talk about that as well. So similarly, like, for mobile backends are mostly APIs that, you call from your mobile app. So you can make these lightweight APIs on Azure Functions, and then, like your mobile app can utilize these APIs as well. So in this case, I mean, like we are taking a photo from a phone and it stores that in the blob storage and then produce scaled images, these kind of things.
For the trigger, it can be to a binded service as well.
What do you mean by binded service?
So, for example, if there is a document stored on a OneDrive, so can we trigger it based on that binding event?
So basically, you would have to initiate, like you would have two options. So you said like your data would be stored where?
OneDrive.
OneDrive, yeah.
So OneDrive, I have a shared OneDrive.
Yeah.
And I want to configure a trigger whenever there is an update to my OneDrive folder. I need to trigger an event through a function app to copy the file, let's say to blob storage.
Yeah. So you will write the binding. Okay, so you will write the binding, okay, but then this integration can either be achieved through webhooks, okay, or you can, I mean, like not HTTP I would call, but you would have like webhook functionality also in OneDrive, which you can utilize to do something like that. Okay, but I think like for OneDrive, you will have the trigger available. Sorry, yeah, the trigger available, built-in trigger. Yeah. So the same thing is for like if you have like stream related solution, a lot of IoT devices from data is coming. So all of that data can be ingested through your AI, your functions, and then transformed and stored into databases. So there are like a number of use cases over in this. Like this is a process, like a document processing use case where when a document is stored in a blob storage, Azure Functions take that document, and then you perform document intelligence related operations on it. It sends it to the existing document intelligence models and get the data, and then store it to Azure table, and then perform create a report from that, etc. Okay, so I've talked about time-based processing. So okay, so now I'll go towards the life cycle of Azure Functions. So they can be developed, tested locally, as I said, like it depends upon the preferred IDE that you use. But mainly, I mean, like the full featured support is there with VS Code and Visual Studio Code. Um, uh, so if you're using these IDEs, you will have out of the box functionality to like develop them, deploy them, debug them, and so on. Uh, so this is what I talked about initially. So the programming model of Azure Function is that function gets executed based on a certain event. Okay, it can be a HTTP trigger, it can be a blob storage trigger, or a event grid, or a message related trigger. Okay, from a messaging service that can invoke the function, and the function executes the code, and it returns an output. Okay, so that output can further be used for other functionality based upon your scenario. So if you like have a chain of functions, like 3 4 functions, you can take output from one function, and then like input it as another function, and so on. So these are some of the triggers that are available as of now, as you can see in the list. I hope it's visible to you all. So you have like blob storage, Azure Cosmos DB trigger, SQL, Event Grid, Event Hub, webhooks, mobile application, and so on. Like there's a whole list of triggers available to you. Uh, and then, as I said, like on top of it, if you don't have the triggers available for your solution, some on-prem setup, or some SaaS solution which is not like the integration is not there. For that, you can write custom triggers and bindings. Okay, so that will allow you to like take the input and uh, based on that do some kind of processing, and then like utilize the output. So these are like a few of them, but if you introduce event grid in between, so what event grid does is just a second. So event grid, as you know, like it's a messaging service. So it has integration with more than 40 plus other Azure services. And then event grid has also seamless integration with Azure function apps. So if you are not able to find, these triggers and for a certain service, you can definitely, will be able to find it with your event grid service. So what happens is that, let's say, uh, one service sends a message to event grid. Event grid will send that message to Azure function and trigger it based on that. So like it gives you more additional integration with other services as well. So for local development, you can use VS Code, Visual Studio, GitHub Copilot for Azure. You have support for Eclipse and then IntelliJ as well. You have like end-to-end support for command line tools. You can use Azure CLI, AZD, Azure Developer CLI if you're building a solution on that. So I'm not sure if you're aware of these, but these are like the tools that can allow you to accelerate your development and deployment of your solution. So when you're developing like functions locally, so you have like, all the support to debug your code and also like, stimulate your code because sometimes you won't be able to use Azure services in Azure, right? So you have to like somehow stimulate that in your local environment. So you have like emulators available, for example, for storage account, uh, similar like for other services, there are stimulations that you can use and they will mimic like how your function is going to behave. And then once you are satisfied with it, you can deploy it. So these are some of the Azure Functions capabilities for AI related, apps. So as I talked about this already, you have built-in capabilities for, data ingestion for RAG operations. You can use Azure Functions for a function, tool calling, uh, and then orchestrate it with durable functions. Now, durable functions, I'm not going to talk about durable functions. It's an advanced concept. As I said, I need more time to talk about that. But durable functions are functions which maintain a state. So like this, when you deploy a function normally and you run it, it does not maintain a state. So when you want to maintain a state for a particular scenario, you will go for durable functions, and they have like a little bit of different implementation than this. There are like proper architectures and patterns that you can use to implement the durable functions. For example, fan in, fan out. There are like function chaining and so on that you can use. So that can really help you orchestrate your overall solution. So like all the AI related, main frameworks are supported. Okay, you can see semantic kernel, LangChain, Azure AI SDK, AutoGen is supported, and you can write your function in any .NET, Python, Java, JavaScript, PowerShell as well. Okay, so you can deploy your functions. I talked about either you can quickly go and write your code and deploy it from Azure portal, or you can use CI/CD pipelines to like streamline this process of deployment and building and deploying the function. Uh, Otherwise, you have also the support in IDEs that you can use to deploy your functions. So in that, I mean, like in this slide, mainly, I think like infrastructure as code is something that I should talk about. And you have the support for infrastructure as code tools as well. I'm not sure if you use Terraform or Bicep or something like that. If you use, so you can write your configuration for functions in these tools and then deploy them. Okay. So functions like every other Azure service, they have like, built-in monitoring for you. You can, like perform end-to-end trace for your transactions. Okay. You can have all the insights related to the execution. You can look into errors, you can get the standard input and output from these functions. And all of these further, logs can be stored into your log analytics solution as well, which is a log management solution in Azure. So all of these capabilities are built in almost every Azure service. So similarly, they are here for you as well. But on top of it, application related services, they can be further integrated with application insights, which is a service which provides you insights from within your code, like what method, for example, failed, what happened particular in this line of the code. So these end-to-end transactions, these details can be further seen through Azure. Um, uh,
application insights. That is a service. But what Azure Monitor allows you to do is it will give you the monitoring uh, insights from the infrastructure layer. Okay, for example, how many requests came in, how did the server perform, and these kind of things. So correlated application related data can be obtained through application insight, which is not mentioned here. Okay, yeah, here it is. Yeah, so application insight, you can get, like, as I said, like end-to-end tracing, which will allow you to troubleshoot anything if it goes wrong, uh, overall usage of application, and then on top of it, you can set up alerts on specific things, like if you are, expecting that a certain scenario is failing. So based on that, you can, set up alerts using Azure Monitor, which can notify you about, these kind of things on your phone, on your email, and these kind of things. So the whole monitoring solution is there to monitor your apps. And this basically slide is about the logs. So all of this data which is being produced through Azure Monitor and Azure Application Insights, that basically gets saved in log management solution, the native log management, which is log analytics. So that configuration is also there for you. So from a networking perspective, you have several options on which you can how you can deploy your Azure functions. So you have the public access. You can deploy your functions publicly for internal access, for internal organizational one where you want to have everything private. You can have like VNet integration, or you can create private endpoints. So these kind of network options are there for you to use.
Private endpoint is supported in free consumption plan as well?
No. So in consumption plan, I mean, like only inbound IP you can define, like from which IP a request can come in, but rest of the things are not supported. So you have to go for either flex consumption plan, premium, or dedicated ASC plan, app service plan.
And in Flex, what's the difference?
So in flex consumption, I mean, like it's similar to consumption, but it has a more flexible plan. Basically, you get a lot more like a rapid scaling kind of capabilities. For example, in normal consumption plan, there is a limitation. Okay, to at what certain level your function can scale. So let's say if you're getting 5,000 requests for your function app, which is a lot. So there will be a limitation on consumption plan. And plus on consumption plan, there is a delay. It has a cold start. Okay. In flex consumption, the scaling is very rapid. So that the cold start time is not that much. Okay. And it can scale rapidly to cater your incoming requests. So these are like the different uh, 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 main differences you can say are here. Obviously, from a cost perspective, flex consumption is more costly, but it has other networking features as well for you. So in normal scenarios, for internal setups where you want to keep everything private, we do not go for consumption plan, especially here in Qatar. We go for either flex consumption plan or deploy it as an app service plan. So from security perspective, I've already talked about the networking aspect of it, and further, related to identity and management, you can have the integration with Active Directory, and also, you have the support for managed identities, which you can use to kind of authenticate to other Azure services that you're integrating your function apps with. On top of it, like Azure Monitor, I've already talked about it there. App Insight is there. Security Center and Azure Sentinel, these are also security related services which have the integration with your Azure function apps. So yeah, so I think you guys are already familiar of most of the services. I'm not gonna dive deeper from a security perspective. I think like the one thing I want to talk about would be Key Vault. You would have, your secrets and your sensitive data. So you can have that, you can store that data in Key Vault and reference that those secrets as a environment variable or a secret within your function apps and utilize it. So other than that, like Azure Active Directory integration and managed identities are used to authenticate with other Azure services, and Azure Active Directory allows you to manage services.
You want binding as well?
Yeah, I mean, your function is going to run inside the function service, right? So you will reference in your code how you are going to pull the secret. So for example, one way is that you can directly make a call, external call to key vault, okay, and get that key from within your code. The other way would be that you will reference your function app within your code to pull it from the environment variables. But in environment variables, you're not going to add it as a plain text. Environment variable, you will reference it further to Azure Key Vault. So with that reference, it will just follow that path. Okay, so I will now just start with the demo.
Just one question, if you get
Yes.
related to real-time processing data streaming. So I was just thinking about this one scenario, and if you had any case that you might have faced with you. Let's say, for example, if I have a subscribe to some topic that the data is coming in, that is in bulk, and my cloud function is subscribed to that topic, and it's ingesting the data real time into the DB, let's say any database. So related to scaling, I mean, since we talked about that, it can scale itself, that we don't need to worry about that. And so how would you, let's say there is some bottleneck on the DB, and the cloud function is spawning instances on its own. So how would you handle the limit or the instances it can spawn in? Like I would be at the end worried about my cost, right? It would charge me at some point. That so how would you handle that, and what's the limitation to it to handle such scenarios or any scenario that you might have faced? So.
So, I mean, like in consumption plan, you don't have, like, you cannot specify, like, these are the number of requests that the functions can handle. So Azure basically handles that for you. But this rate limiting, you can implement at other layers of the solution. For example, at the landing zone layer, the application gateway layer, okay? You can add this kind of rate limiting, or if you're exposing your functions through APIM, you can implement this kind of rate limiting there. I'm not sure if you are aware of APIM or not. So it's an API management services which exposes your APIs. Okay, so you can have like the such implementation there. For example, how many requests it is supposed to send to the backend, from which IP addresses the request can go, identity authentication. So from governance and security perspective, it serves that purpose API. Now, the other thing is that these are like tool layers, and these are the preferred areas where I would say you can do something like that. But from function app perspective, you can go for something like app service plan. Okay. So in that, you will specify, for example, I need 2 vCPUs, 8 GB RAM to run my function. And these are the number of instances it can scale. So based on that, it will not exceed the limit that you define, right? So does that
Yes, but I was just thinking about that if there is some deadlock or something at the DB end and my cloud function is still active and waiting for the response, or I mean, it's still on the active state and it's
Yeah.
consuming the resources because it's waiting for a response, for example. So would we need to go for the timeout or maybe go for some monitoring services that they would alert us or something like that?
There are a lot of solutions to it. So what I mentioned using APIM, you can implement throttling. Okay. From monitoring perspective, you can set certain type of these notifications which can alert you for that. But bottleneck in database, I mean, that is something that we run into every day. Almost like most of my time is gone into troubleshooting customer environments, and it's you have to troubleshoot the bottleneck itself, right? So if the response is not getting back, either it's because of the infrastructure layer, either the compute resources are not there, or either it's bad queries that are running. Or if you have time-consuming queries, so you have to optimize the queries to get the response faster.
Yeah, one scenario could be because of the concurrency from the cloud functions as well. For example, if we are inserting uh, like uh, like maintaining the, how would I say that, like um, let's say like it's inserting the data that it's uh, causing the deadlock itself, like not being able to maintain the, like not being able to get the lock on the table, like one instance and the second instance is trying to insert into the same one. I'm not sure if you're getting my point. Like, how would we know, like, if there are any options that Cloud Functions would itself handle that, or we would need to define something?
Yeah, so
Uh,
you can definitely do that. So sorry to cut you off. Like for that, you will go for durable functions, okay? Because durable functions give you these kind of capabilities out of the box. Yeah, yeah, because there is a state, and plus you can have things like retry logic on top of it, which can like support these kind of things, these kind of scenarios for you. But from my perspective, I think like there are several ways you can control it, the concurrent request, and especially if the bottleneck it has the DB level. So the solution is to resolve the bottleneck on the DBs. As you said, like two tables are getting locked. So obviously, if one table is very huge and there is data being written there, and so it gets locked. If the other call is reading that data, so I mean, like you have to like optimize this process at this layer, right? But on functions, if you go for durable functions, you can have like further in advanced scenarios, you can have these kind of implementations that you can use using different states and other out of the box. For example, retry logic is there that you can add on your functions to mitigate these issues as well. Okay, so
Race condition. Condition. एक response को दो चीजें access करनी चाहिए. एक response के access करना. आपस में deadlock है first step. वो आपस में कैसे करें? Then come from वो ये लोगों के बाद कुछ तो ऐसे सोचते हैं आप ये रेस कंडीशन के द्वारा ये रिसोर्स है उसको एक्सेस कर सकते हैं कुछ बट ये रिसोर्स एक्सेस करना जैसे इसको मिलता है उसको लॉक करता है
yeah, so I will walk you through like how to work with Azure Functions. And on your screen, you can see like these are some prerequisites depending upon the type of ID you're using. So for Visual Studio Code, you have to like get some tools and extensions installed. So I'll be working with .NET 8, and for that I need C# extension, Azure Function extension, and also Azure Function core tools installed. So like if you go through this guide, you will see like these are the prerequisites that we need to start working with the local development. Uh, okay, so once we have these tools, then we can start working with functions. So I will develop a local function and I will show you like how it works, and we'll see how we can deploy that function, run it locally, and also then I'm going to like implement a use case that is already ready. So basically in that use case, we'll be utilizing some other services, AI services that can be used, and I'll talk about that use case that we go there. So at start, I mean, like what you can do is I'm going to create a folder here. Uh, I'll name it HTTP function. So this is going to be a basic function, which will see my screen. So once you have these tools installed, the extension in VS Code installed as well, you can simply go to the extensions in VS Code and search for Azure Functions, and it will give you the official extension from Microsoft that you can install. You can then I will start a prompt here, and you can see like you will see similar. Can you guys see it properly? Should I zoom in more? Maybe zoom in, please. Is this better? I will start. So once you have this extension of Azure Functions installed, so it will show you like the different operations you can perform within VS Code. So in this case, I'm going to create a new functions project, which you can see like create new project. And then it is going to prompt you for a few things that you can go through based on your setup. And it will generate a functions, basic functions project that you can then use and build more functionality on top. So in this case, I'm going to use the folder which I created. And then it is asking me for the language, which is C# and the runtime. So I'm going to go for the latest one. Now over here, you can see like it is asking me for like what kind of trigger you want to use for this function. So there are a lot of options, as you can see, like blob storage trigger, HTTP trigger. So I'm going to go for the HTTP trigger in this case. And I'll keep the name same. And the access rights over here, this represents like if you want to your function to be consumed through an API key or an admin key. So you get keys for each function in Azure Function Service that you can use, and you pass it as a part of your request to kind of invoke the function. But in this case, for demo purpose, I'm going to go for anonymous. So keep things simple, at which I don't have to like provide a key. So you can see like it is it has created, a folder structure project for me. So in this, the main, the main files basically are this host.json file. This is mainly related to the function app service, which is in Azure. Okay, configuration related to that, and then you have like this function this CS file, which basically keeps the core logic of your function. So in this, if you look at it, this file, it has created a small code snippet for me, in which, mainly we have this part here, which is related to the function. So over here, this is the function, and this is like that function, trigger type define. And over here, we have the logic, which is simply returns like, when a request is sent to this function, it will return, welcome to Azure Functions. So how my function is ready. I'm just simply going to run it. And in order to run it, since I have the tools installed, I'm going to run func start func keyword. And this will basically install any dependencies. It will build the project and basically run it locally. So the similar scenarios are for other languages as well. For example, Python, if you're using Java, so there will be like just minor differences. For example, how that basically, framework works in simple words. Okay, so let me see. Port is being used by another. Now using the function core tools, it is has created the runtime, and it's going to just start our function. You can test. So you can see like it has generated this local URL for us. It's running on localhost 7071. I'm just going to copy this. If I send a request to this function now, so it returns what I've defined in that function, and that is simply to return the this text, welcome to Azure Functions. So for local development now, I mean, like you can now further build, functionality using this template, okay, based on your scenario, which we will see. Like I will show you like 2 more demos, but this was like just something basic to get started. So for working with environment variables, if you want to add, so you can use the local settings.json file. I'm sure you guys are already aware of it, and you can define, your keys or anything if you want to add environment variables, and then reference them in the main file. Okay, so now the second demo that I'm going to go into is one, and the everything is similar to what you saw just now. It's a basic function. The only thing is that it has some additional logic. So what this function is going to do is basically I was thinking I just created these 2 demos like before starting this session. So at many times we have people submitting forms in which they can, like pass some comments, these kind of things. So I'm just doing that.
How much time is doing it?
Yep.
On soft plus.
So basically, this function, what it's going to do is it will receive a request, and in that request, we'll have a payload. In that payload, we'll be sending a username and some, like comment from the user that, for example, I like the product or any comment from him. And then the function is going to just take that data and, further save it in SQL database. Okay. So something like that. And then like the chain of functionality can be built on top of that data and these kind of things, but just to keep things simple. So from code perspective, this is just like, some getters and setters that I'm setting. And then in my function main code, I've created a, SQL DB connection. And then I'm just simply using a code operation to insert that data name, email, message from that into the database. So in order to do that, if you look at the local settings.json file, over here I have defined my SQL connection string. And using this connection string, it is going to talk to the DB. So I'm just going to run it. So meanwhile, the function is running. I'm going to go here and show you the database. So this is like the SQL database. I have created two tables here. As of now, like it has, this test data 2 rows. So now my local host is running. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically send a request to this local function, and it is going to basically have this data. So the only thing is that this is not going to work because you see the URL that I'm using is the actual function which I've deployed in the function app. So I don't want to do that. There's a typo here.
There you go.
So it returned contact saved. Okay, so I'm gonna go here now. you can see like, this entry is saved. So function got executed after receiving the request. Now I can deploy the same function to the function app. And for this case, I will use Visual Studio Code to deploy the project that I've just like shown you guys. But before that, let me just walk you through quickly how you create the function app service in Azure. So for that, I mean, like you go to Azure portal and you can search for Azure Functions. So you will select function app, and then you can click on create. So here it will give you the different options for that you want to use. I'm just going to go for the consumption. And then I will provide a resource group name, unique name for my function app. So it will build the domain using that. And then it gives me an option either to use Linux or Windows. And then the main things are like the runtime stack. So if you're working with any other programming language, you will choose that. In my case, I was working with .NET, and then the version and the region. And then, I mean, like these are some of the main things that you need to select. So from a networking perspective, you get the option to either keep it public or consumption plan we talked about. You don't have private endpoint support, VNet integration, these kind of things. So that's why you are not seeing that. But if you go for another option, you will see that. From monitoring perspective, if you want to integrate application insight and these kind of services, so you will get an option to do that. You can select your existing application insight, and all the telemetry from your function will go to this, to that application insight. From a deployment perspective, yes, you can set up, continuous deployment, and then, if you are using any DevOps platforms such as Azure DevOps or GitHub, so you can select it here. It will, set up the pipeline for you, but there are more steps to it. I will not get into that. And, like from which branch to pull the code. Obviously, from deployment perspective, using CI/CD pipeline, you will have to put your code in a remote repository, and from there set up the pipeline. So that's why these are like these options here. So rest of the things, I will keep them default. These are authentication. So if you create, like integration with application insight, how the function app and application insight is going to authorize to exchange the data. So for all of that, these defaults are fine to keep. The secrets, and Azure will basically do all of that for you. Also for the storage account. So for Azure Web Job Storage, I mean, like all work with web jobs, you have to have a storage account. So every time you create a function app, it needs to have a default storage account to for its internal working. And that's it. So once you click review and create, it will create the function app for you. So I've already created a function app. I'll just go to that. Now in this case, you can see like my function app is running on an app service plan. So I'm not working with a consumption model. So if I go for, if I show you the options here, so you will see like in networking side of things, you will see like, how you want to basically expose this function. So you have public access right now, it's enabled. You can disable it, you can create inbound addresses you can define, and you can have like outbound traffic configuration as well. So private endpoints, it says it's not supported. But private endpoints are supported in function app because it's running on app service plan. Maybe it's due to the region that I've deployed the function app. Okay. So now these are like, some of the main configurations on the left-hand side that you see. And in here, if you have the function section where you can look at, the deployed functions that you have. So on this service now, you can deploy multiple functions. So we saw I created one HTTP simple function, another function which is going to do something and save that data to the database. So you can see like over here under name, I have like two rows here. So each row is representing a function. So in that, and you can also see like one function is of type blob and the other one is of type HTTP. I'm going to disable the submit contact function. I will now. So other than that, over here, I mean, like most of the things are similar to other Azure services. Okay. On the left-hand side, if you want to, for example, monitor something on this function app, you have the options to go check the different metrics, explore it on Azure Monitor. You can go to application insight. Right now, I don't think it's configured. But if it's configured, it will take you to your application insight and so on. If I go to one of the deployed function, it will then give me some options to basically work with my function within Portal. So this is like the area where you can code in Portal and work with it more. You can see like you will see all the files related to this function which are deployed, and you can like add the logic on top of it if you want to edit something like that. From logs perspective, you can get the logs here from application insights. If the integration is there, and you will get this whole experience in this window, and the metrics from Azure Monitor. See, like you can see things like total execution count, uh, you know, and more. And if you want to have if you want to check something particular, you can then dive into the monitoring section, which we saw there. Logs will be pulled from, as I said, like application insight. And if you want to go for a deeper dive into logs, then you can go for the log analytics workspace and run queries there to get that. So this was like just a simple explanation what options we have here, and this is like the area of function key. So if for this case I've kept my function as anonymous, right, while creating, but if you keep it with an admin key or a function key, so that key would be listed here, and you will copy that key from here. It will be generated in Portal, and you will then pass it in your request to kind of have a successful execution. So, I mean, this basically shows you how the integration is, how, like everything will work. So it gives you an overall view. Now you can also test and run it. For example, over here, if you go, so it gives you a built-in kind of uh, uh, functionality to send an API request to this function to test it out. You can, choose a method, choose the key, and pass in any query parameters or modify header or add a body as needed.
Very much.
This option gives you your end-to-end function URL that you can use to kind of invoke this function. So if you look at here, it will have something like a default URL, which is like the function app URL endpoint. And then it says API submit contact. So I've deployed two functions on this function app. So the submit contact part will change for the other function in order if I want to invoke the other function. So this is pretty much it from the portal side. Now, if I want to deploy this function now to the function app, what I'm going to do is I can by left clicking it, I get the options to kind of deploy this to a function app. You can see deploy to function app. This is like the most straightforward way from VS Code that you can use once you have the extension installed. And once you do that, it will give you some prompts that you need to answer for, and then it will start the deployment. This is just a subfolder path related error, nothing. So it is asking me for my subscription on which the function service is. I'm going to select the subscription, and then it will show me the name. This is the function app name, and that's like pretty much it from the deployment perspective. So now it's asking me, it has prompted me that the previous deployment, which is there, you guys have seen, like I have a form submission function deployed, that will get override with this. And once I click deploy, so it will start the deployment process. See, it is building, then it will package it, and then it will deploy. So meanwhile, this is happening. This will take at least 2-3 minutes. I'm gonna just move to the second demo.
Sarmad, do you mind zooming just a little bit? Is it
Good.
clear for people at the back?
So in this use case, basically, we are gonna use, Azure AI services, mainly vision service, to which allows you to detect, objects and analyze images from pictures. So I'm going to upload a file in a storage account. So my function will have a trigger type of blob trigger. So anytime I upload a file into blob storage, it will basically invoke this function. And upon invoking the function, that image is going to be sent to the Azure Vision service. It will, perform the analysis on that, get the values, what's in that image. For example, I have cat and dog images. If it's a cat, it's a dog, it's an animal. It will generate some tags. We'll take those tags, and then we are gonna save those tags after formatting into a database. This can be any database. For this purpose, I'm just using the SQL Server for this purpose. So from the code perspective, you can see like I have the analyze image function. And to be honest, I mean, like all of this code, I believe you guys utilized Fateh's session last time. So I use GitHub Copilot to write all of this code for both of the use cases within like 20 minutes. And I tested it and it all works fine. So it's just like prompting is important to make things work. And so you can see like over here, mainly what I'm doing is I'm passing in the endpoints for the Vision API, which is the Azure Vision service. Okay. And then we are from the response, we are getting the tags out, which are going to be analyzed by the vision service. And then those tags further are being processed and saved into the SQL server that we have. So it's just like this much code to achieve this. So going back, just to show you guys, like you can see the deployment to function is complete. So the previous use case, it's deployed and now it is live on Azure Function. If I just change the URL, so it will just, do that. Terminal. And I'm going to use this one because so if everything is right, it should work. Yeah, so you can see the URL is for the endpoint of our function. And I checked like what's here, so you can see like the recent message was hello from local. Yeah, I'll just switch to the use case that you were talking about. And sorry for switching to the first use case. So for this now, I'm not gonna deploy it because you guys already saw how the deployment works. It's very straightforward. I'm just gonna run it locally. I'm gonna save function start. And if you look at the host, my local settings file, so you will see like I have defined the connection string for my storage account, for the endpoint of my vision service, and the key for it, and also the SQL connection string. Just again the same error. Biggest function was running locally, so it had this 7071. Okay, meanwhile, the function is starting. I'm going to go to the portal and I'm going to show you the storage account that I have. So this storage account basically has, I've created a container inside it. And in that container, I have container named with images, okay, where I'm going to upload the images. It has nothing now. Okay, so as you can see, the function is started and the trigger is block trigger. So you don't see a local URL through which you can access it. Now it is listening on this container. If anything is uploaded on this container, it will execute the code. If I go back here and upload, let's say cat image. I go back to the local function now, so you can see like some logs being generated now. So as soon as I upload it, so it is now executing the code, and it has, you can see like, get got the metadata from the name of the file, and it sent it for analysis and generated the tags, like what it is. So it is also telling like it's a white color, it's a sitting outdoor. So this Azure Vision Service is very detailed, and it is successful. So after getting these tags, now if we go back to database again, so I can show you like I have two tables. One is for image tag as well. So I'm gonna just select everything from the image tag. You can see like we have one entry, the cat. It has like all the tags, and you can see the time.
So essentially here, you're mainly resizing the function after resizing the method, right?
No. So basically, in this use case, we are seeing two things. One is the trigger based on blob, anything getting uploaded to blob storage. The second thing is how we can call external, other Azure services such as Vision Service, and pass that image to that service, get a result from it, and then store it to another Azure service, which is a database.
And if like someone wanted to, like, what's the value of using Azure Functions here for people that don't know about it? Like, if you wanted Azure Function in the picture, what would be the traditional way of doing this?
I mean,
They would have to have like a virtual machine and like an endpoint running there.
yeah, I mean, like in that case, you can use Azure App Service or run it on a virtual machine, and then on uh, from somewhere you will have to like send this file to that application, and based on that, it will do the process. But this will require a lot of working. I mean, like you will have to create, polling functions and these kind of things to listen to, a storage where the file is getting uploaded. So based on that, this processing. But over here, you can see like within 30, 40 minutes, this whole solution is there.
So the real power here is the fact that you can easily just wrap a task in a function and deploy it and use it just when it's needed without
Yes.
worrying about
Yeah.
all the extra stuff.
And all of this execution is event-based. So based on events, we are doing it. Yeah. So
But
I
you
can't
need to
find
keep
the
it
image.
running, right?
I'm sorry, what?
But you need to keep it running. You cannot stop this functions.
No, I mean,
You want to grab this information, this event, after this event, like a trigger.
Yeah.
This function is a trigger.
this function will keep on running once you deploy it on Azure service, but it will not incur any cost based on the deployment model. But as soon as it is triggered, it will be listening to this, it will be polling against this storage account. And as soon as it sees something different, or maybe it can also be a database, a table in database, a row you insert. Based on that, it will just quickly, identify that, and it will just start the execution. Now, once it gets executed, that is when you will be charged for it and everything.
I read this analogy that really helped explain this, and I just want to share it. So think of having like a VM where the other option you mentioned, it's like owning a restaurant, right? You need to pay for the restaurant's cost, the waiters, it needs to be on like all the time, even though there's no customers, you need to still maintain it and so on. And then that's like the traditional way of like maybe having this running on a VM and it needs to always be on. Then serverless or functions, think of it as like a vending machine. So it's there, food is there, but only like, when you punch in your money, you punch in what you need, then you get it. It's like an interesting analogy. So it's you don't need to have like someone maintaining it the whole time. It's event based, so there's different ways you can trigger it, right? So you showed us like when there's something uploaded to a storage account. What are other examples of triggers, like when a request is sent?
Yeah. So the main ways are the HTTP requests. Okay, so that gives you flexibility to do it from everywhere. All you have to do is from your existing system, existing application, send an HTTP request. It is supported everywhere. So the other for Azure native services, you have storage account triggers, you have these event services based triggers, okay, queues related triggers, database related triggers. Not like all services support them, but majority of them do support. But if nothing is supported, what you can do is you can go for custom bindings and creating your own triggers. So just I want to wrap this up. I'm going to upload these two images as well. I haven't tested it with two images, but this.
So you uploaded an image to the storage account,
Yeah.
and then what's happening?
Now you can see like the function execution start. It
Okay.
executed 2 times.
Mhm.
Uh,
And it's like, it's analyzing the
yeah.
image.
So you saw like one image was of bottle and the other image was of a dog. And yeah.
The event you detect, like there's change in blob story, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually an event, or you are just polling on the service continuously?
So the function basically does the polling. But the event that happened is on a storage account.
Uh, So I have a blob storage.
Yeah.
And then I deployed a function app, which triggers some functionality based on changes made over here on the blob. So my code is continuously polling on it.
No, it does not poll it like that. There are some triggers where the polling happens, but in this case, it is just simply when a new, upload is, sorry, a new change is in the database, it sends a webhook kind of a request, okay, which basically then executes and does the processing.
And all of
Because-
that is managed.
Yeah,
like
this
you're
is
doing
all,
work.
as I said, like functions are built on top of Azure Functions runtime and web jobs runtime. So they work through it. But there are some scenarios where this polling, especially if you are considering building your, custom triggers and bindings, you might utilize polling as a technique as well to see, right? Or a timer-based event which works in the same way can be done, utilized as well. So these are the images, like quickly, guys. I think
Exactly is the target audience here. Like, if you look at big companies, telecom or banking, they already have the compute power, they already have a server setup, everything is there, and they don't really want to go for these and pay as you go for these functions. So basically, who are the audience that we want these as your apps to be used by? For example, I work in telecom, and I don't see a use of this because we have huge servers and we can use those to do these functions to get across this functionality. So, who are the target audience that we actually want?
So right now you're working with your traditional legacy application workload, right? So these kind of workloads, I mean, are designed to run on traditional infrastructure, virtual machine, VNP, these kinds of things. But if you move towards cloud native development and cloud first approach, that is where these services are very useful and they play the key role because you're looking at these are platforms which are managed for you, and you are just simply focused on your applications, your data, right? So that is like, from my perspective, the main audience would be if you want to modernize your existing environment, if you want to modernize your workload, your applications, how will you do that? You cannot modernize them by taking them and just moving them and running them on virtual machines and cloud, right? You need to go for more advanced technologies that are available. So in those advanced technologies, functions, app services, microservices, patterns, architectures, they are the main action because you don't need to manage anything. You don't need to worry about scaling, high availability, these kind of aspects. That is all taken care of for you by the platform. That's there. They provide you the agility and flexibility. Innovate more on top. once you are in cloud, you have this kind of implementation. You can see like within 30 minutes, I was able to build 2, 3 use cases. And yes. Yes.
So we have an application which was actually helping to finalize the pricing and budget before bidding any project. So that application was built in .NET. So then parallelly we have SAP system, which is managing the financial and all other part of the company. Okay. So once the budgeting and pricing is finalized and we won the bid for the project, okay. So this first application need to send the billing data to the SAP. So billing data size can be 10 rows, it can be 100 rows, it can be 1000 rows. So before I joined the team, the development team have done on the click of submit button, they just passed the data to the stored procedure. It was just processing, taking half hour, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, and sometime it is timing out as well. So that project was actually built in .NET Framework 2.0, launched in 2005. So to modernize that project, what approach we have followed is we picked up 10 processes, which are biggest pain for the end user. Okay, one of that is this one billing process. So with this, what we did, we written the 10 different one function app for each service. Okay, for this one, we written one function app. We have function app which is connected to a Azure Blob Storage Queue. So whenever user is clicking on submit, we are creating a input parameters. We're creating one JSON, throwing the message in the storage queue, and based on the storage queue, this function app is getting automatically executed on the Azure. Okay, and end user get a message. Your request has been your request is under process. We will notify you once it is completed. So inside function app, we keep logging each and every step in a table. Okay, now this much data is done. We are on this stage. We are on this stage, and the end user is free to use our application. Whenever he will come back to the screen, based on the logged in user, we are just querying the database and giving the recent status. So with this, what we are able to achieve, we have not spent any time of optimizing the query, optimizing the store procedure. We have done nothing. Okay, we have just picked up the logic from here, put in the function app. Okay, it was taking 40 minutes. It is still taking 40 minutes. Okay. But for end user, what happened? Previously, he was waiting for 40 minutes. Now he is free within 2 seconds. This is the real life scenario that we have utilized. So with the help of this, approach, we are able to modernize our legacy application into .NET Core slowly, like this.
Plus, one thing that he mentioned is like a very important thing. You don't have like limitation on the type of framework. You're not dependent on the language of framework. You can have like different frameworks built on different languages communicate. So this is like a very good example, decomposing, like legacy applications and then and because microservices. So that is like the main idea.
Yeah, just so I think you can see the use case for stateless or services that ends up actually hitting the database. But for stateful stuff, for example, if you're running streaming WebSockets, maybe like if you think about like WhatsApp web, WhatsApp client that's you're running, how do you is it possible to run that from functions? Because it will require you to have that maintained connection for each user.
So it is possible, and as I said, like there are different approaches in creating durable functions. But the concept over there and the implementation is a bit different. Okay, so there are several patterns that you can use to achieve this, and like it involves multiple functions to build such kind of a solution. It won't be like a single function, so like I would say like one function would be doing the processing and then managing the state somewhere in the database or someplace like that. From there, another function. So then this is like an approach of chaining functions together to create more durable executions. But there are more approaches as well. There are like 10 fast approaches that you can go for. Maybe we can have another session on this to dive deeper into durable functions.
Maybe additionally as an answer, the durable function has something which is called the orchestrator. The orchestrator is calling stateless activities. Each function is an activity, and they have they are still stateless. But the orchestrator has a state. So the activity returns something, and the orchestrator is controlling it. So that is how it's used. And you use it also if your time. I mean, you have a maximum time of 5 minutes runtime for each function. It can be, I guess, increased up to 10 minutes, but after that, it is cutting. So if you need more time, you are using also.
But I think in this specific case, I was thinking, for example, the WebSockets, they're long-lived connections.
You use signal. You have signal architecture.
Signal architecture.
Exactly, and it works perfectly.
Makes sense. So it's like use signal architecture.
Exactly, signal is calling it, and it has also first in first out logic. You just connect with your boundings to.
Thanks for that. Quick question. Do you know if like down the line there's going to be Aspire support for functions?
Aspire support?
Yeah, if Aspire is going to support like being able to run functions natively for development purpose, so you don't have to do it in VS Code. Yeah.
Well, I think
I was
like,
thinking
yeah,
about
this
the
is also the first
Fire.
time hearing it. You will have to check, like, I mean, like, but I think the support is there for VS Code as of now, Visual Studio, Eclipse, and some. So I'm not sure. I'll have to like look into.
Probably, you can ask the team that maintains that IDE. I haven't heard of it. Has anyone used Aspire? Like, what language do you use?
This Aspire framework.
Yeah, it's Aspire framework. Sorry. Yeah.
Aspire framework. It's the latest framework from Microsoft.
Just said it kind of alleviates having to install all the tools and that if it just comes straight out of the box.
All right, Sarmad, 3 questions to our audience.